Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Delighted to be with you all. And thank you so much to our witnesses for being with us. This is an incredibly important conversation, and it's long past time for Congress to address all of these challenges: healthcare, telecommunications, energy, and water, uh, even before COVID-19. But now we've seen that they have further exacerbated the inequities faced by our tribal communities. I'd like to address an issue that we haven't discussed that ties into the rates of sexual and domestic violence in Indian country and the alarming rate of missing and murdered Native women, which is truly a national tragedy. It's a stain on our country that these incidents have persisted for too long and all too often without justice being served. And I'll just say this is a deeply personal issue for me. I'm a survivor of sexual assault and now the co-chair of the bipartisan task force to end sexual violence. Last fall, our task force held a very emotional roundtable on this topic, and I want to thank Congresswoman Deb Haaland and members from both sides of the aisle that joined us to hear from tribes as far away as Alaska and across this great country. We heard heartbreaking stories and staggering statistics. The scope of this crisis is truly disturbing. So I'm proud now to support legislation to enable tribes to arrest and prosecute non-native perpetrators, to expand protection orders, and to establish new law enforcement protocols and resources. But it's clear to me that Congress has a long way to go. And I want to ask about what more this committee can be doing to help. My first question is to Dr. Grimm. Year by year, we continue to learn about how survivors process trauma and what kind of treatment they need for their own mental health. In some cases, this pain compounds upon the historical trauma that people in Indian country can feel from their people having been systematically oppressed for generations. So over your years with the Indian Health Service, have you noticed that the system is being more responsive to the emerging science like trauma-informed care for survivors? And is there anything that you could add how we could help to implement these strategies?
That's a great question, Congresswoman, and I appreciate your leadership on this issue. Yes, over the years, as the science has evolved, the IHS has adopted it. And one of the great things about Indian Health Service, I think, and tribal health programs is whenever research starts showing things, we can really spread it across our system very quickly. I'm sure many of you have heard the adage that, when something gets proven in research, it may take up to 13 years to end up in practice. But especially for problems like this, when new research and new treatments come out, the agency has been doing a lot of trauma-informed care training with their staff. And I hate to keep saying that it goes back to money, but, having the availability of these services in areas, the vacancy rate issue that we talked about, all these compound the already difficult nature of dealing with some of these problems, So I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate, you staying on top of this, and we'll do anything we can to work with you on it. It's a big problem in Indian country.
Thank you. Just before I close off, do you see in the near term an opportunity for Congress through the CONNECT Act to leverage telehealth solutions to help survivors, particularly in those remote areas that we've talked about? And are there any other healthcare barriers that need to be addressed, such as access to telehealth?
Yes, to all that. There are barriers to telehealth. Some of them are the broadband issues we've been discussing, and I'm not an expert on that area, but I support everything that has been said, and our tribe is doing a lot on that front to try to help. But telehealth for behavioral health issues actually sometimes is more acceptable to the patient than coming in and talking to people face to face. This rapid change to telehealth during this time, we have had so many patients and our providers tell us, especially for behavioral health services, that people are more accepting of it. They like it. In fact, they want to continue to do it when the crisis. The pandemic is over. So anything that we can do to make that more available. Part of that is getting this broadband network out. Part of it is the equipment. Sometimes there's special equipment. Sometimes it's just a phone. But anything we can do to enhance telehealth, I think it goes particularly well in psychiatric and behavioral health circles.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being with us. My time is up. I yield back.